Hello and welcome to the Euro podcast from sportsbet.io. This is this week's Serie A version, but don't forget there is a La Liga and Bundesliga version for you every single week, along with our Premier League previews and previews from around the world of sporting action. Just before we get recording, just to let you know we're recording this on Wednesday morning. There are Champions League games to come Wednesday night, but I just thought I'd start with that so you knew where we stood and thought that we hadn't just ignored a bunch of results in our conversation today. Daniele Verri is joining us as always, our good friend in Italy. Daniele, we will start with Atalanta against Torino. And after a couple of sort of sticky weeks, or at least sticky games for Atalanta, they did get themselves a very important win over Como last time around.
Yeah, 4 without a win at the beginning of the 2025 year. So first win, they got the first win of the year against Cagliari. But I mean, if you have a striker like Retegui, things like this happen. Because he's got already 16 in the league, he's got 3 in the Champions League, he's 19 goals in the season. It's a lot. It's honestly a lot. He scores with his right foot, he scores with his left foot, he scores with his head. I mean, he's a
great season.
Honestly, a great player, and I'm happy for Spalletti and the Italy team that we have such a striker at the moment.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because Italy have struggled for an out-and-out striker for a few years now. So this is a huge benefit, isn't it?
Yeah, credit to Roberto Mancini and the Italy scouting who found him at Tigre in Argentina. No one knew about him in Italy. So all of a sudden, Mancini came up with the idea of calling up a few let's say, Argentinian-born players. This is nothing new in the history of Italy. It goes back to whatever, the 40s or even earlier than that. But I mean, we've got Camoranesi. If you only think of the last World Cup winning side in 2006, we had Camoranesi, who was actually exactly the same, an Argentinian-born player who turned up to play in Italy and then went on to play for Italy. So basically, he is exactly the same. I mean, yes, Atalanta, again, better in the second half than in the first half. They was trailing at half time. Then again, Gasperini with lucky hand, putting in Brescianini, who scored, didn't score, but he offered to assist to Retegui. I mean, this also shows how important a deep squad is and how good it works actually with Atalanta. They didn't start off well. We said that without win the beginning of the year, but then they look to geared up. They look to have geared up. Obviously, they have a massive game tonight in Barcelona. If they win that, given that Barcelona have already qualified for the round of last 16 directly, it's difficult, but it's not impossible for a team, for a club who are the holders of the UEFA Europa League title. So it's not impossible. No. It's difficult, obviously, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, and Barcelona can be strange at times as well, can't they? Some strange results for them this season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you consider also what Atalanta did last year against Liverpool or against Bayer Leverkusen, you wouldn't have expected them to win those games, and then they did in the end. Yeah. So they have all it takes to win also at the Olympic Stadium, not at the Camp Nou at the moment. But I mean, tough game, obviously, but I've heard Gasperini talking yesterday. I mean, they're not too bold in what they do, but they're also not too shy to try and give it a go. So they will go for the win. Then, I mean, you can only play a game and see what happens. You never know before what happens.
No.
So, fair enough.
It's a strange one. I think Atalanta scraped that, but it's a strange one. We'll move on to Juve Empoli. Juve obviously boosted by the return of Vlahovic, who's going to be, I think, fit again over the next few games. That's obviously vitally important for them. Empoli just struggling to win. Juve just drawing all the time. Juve obviously with the game midweek as well. In my head, Daniela, and you're the expert here, but in my head, Juve scraped this. But with so many draws this season, it's hard to jump too confidently onto Juve, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely hard to jump too confident on them. Given the fact that they lost the first game of the weekend against Napoli, given the fact that they come from two very poor performances against Bruges and Napoli. They were good against Napoli in the first half, but then they disappeared.
Yeah.
No shots, no corners, no nothing in the second half against Napoli. Napoli were all over the place. I mean, there's still a lot to do at Juventus, and rumors around Thiago Motta start to get louder and louder.
Are they really?
I mean, Yeah. I mean, I don't think he's going to be sacked in a short period or nothing like that, but fans are unhappy. I mean, within the club, he always says that things are tranquil, that he feels confident and everything. But I mean, Juve did invest. Juve obviously got rid of players who were expensive in terms of wages, but they also invested money on the market. I mean, Douglas Luiz and Cop Miner, just to name two, Nico Gonzalez. I mean, all of those players that they bought, apart from Kefren Thuram, they are not really performing, to be honest. I mean, Caval, out injured. I mean, Vlahovic is not new, but he had his issues. Bremer is out injured for the rest of the season. But even Vlahovic, you were mentioning Vlahovic, he was fit at the weekend too, but he didn't play. I mean, Colomoni just arrived. Obviously, he's been there for a few days because there was an issue, like in terms of contract and players on loan from Paris Saint-Germain, number of players on loan from Paris Saint-Germain. So eventually he was given green light this week, and all of a sudden he was standing in the starting 11 and he also scored. But this is not a good sign for Vlahovic. No. It's not a good sign if someone comes from outside and immediately puts in a player who's different than Vlahovic. It's not the same as Circe. Also, is not like a true false nine. He's not that kind of player. But I mean, we've seen Juve performing probably their better games at the best so far with Nico Gonzalez up front. Yeah. So who's a player who's not a true nine, a center forward, but is a false nine. So this is what Thiago Motta has in mind. I'm not sure that bright times lie ahead for Vlahovic, to be honest.
Just very quickly before we move on to probably the biggest game of the weekend. If Juve are currently 2 points off fourth, so 2 points off Champions League places at the moment. If they get into the Champions League,
I hope we get a fifth one, May.
There is that as well.
We are on a good way to confirm the fifth place in
that is true. Champions League. If he gets Champions League, does he keep his job?
Yeah, of course.
You think so?
I mean, Juve are not. First of all, everything started anew.
Yeah,
let's say new sporting director. He's been there one season longer than Motta, but I mean, new sporting director whose task was to rejuvenate the club, get rid of all players who were earning too much money, like Szczesny, like Rabiot, like Chiesa, blah blah blah. So getting new players in who were, let's say, good for a new manager.
Yeah,
they got the new manager they wanted. I mean, they are not there to win the title this season. They will not anyway. Come January, we know that they won't win the title.
I think come October, we knew.
I mean, they were not aiming for the title from the off.
No.
Obviously, Napoli were Napoli aiming for the title? I don't think so. But if you find to be there and things go in the right direction, and you've got the right mentality and everything, and Conte has, but we will discuss it later when we come to Napoli, then you obviously have to give it a try. So, but you were not in position to give it a try. But if they qualify for Champions League, then obviously Motta keeps his job, unless there's an earthquake I cannot imagine.
Yeah, it'll be strange, but of course, you know, if fans aren't happy, that can sometimes taint the mind, can't it? Right, we head on to our very big game, probably of the weekend, the very biggest, AC Milan against Inter Milan. We have got the derby. We obviously had Conceição and Calabria being quite interesting with each other at the end of the game at the weekend. That looked to me like Italian passion, but I'm an Englishman and would never experience that, so it's probably what it's going to look like to me. The truth is, though, so far this season, Daniela, as much as AC Milan's season has been quite flat, 2 games against Inter, 2 victories. What do we do with this one?
Yeah, with the next derby, with the derby coming up, I mean, they had a funny game at the weekend, apart from the Calabria Conceição argument you were mentioning at the end of the game. I mean, they were trailing in the 90th minute 2-1 against Parma at home, showing the same issues that they've been showing all season, like lack of positioning, players coming through the midfield, like if they were strolling in the park and all that stuff. Parma were the better side, but I mean, at least, AC Milan probably already still have the same issues that they had with Fonseca, but they have started showing grit and determination. I mean, it's the 4th time with Sergio Conceição out of 7 games that they turn the game around. They come back from behind to win the game. So twice in the Super Cup, and then against Como, and then against Parma the weekend. So at least in terms of character, they are showing something different, and that's very important. But still, I mean, we've seen all season with an issue with the Leao and Theo issue. Okay, they are playing, they're not playing, they're striking, they are fighting, they want to play, they don't want to play, they have off-pitch issues, blah, blah, blah. Again, at the weekend, they were bad in the first 45 minutes, got substituted at halftime, so the issue is still there. The manager changed, but the issue is still there. So this needs to be addressed, and I don't know how long they will stay at AC Milan. At least Theo, I don't know. As I can see it from the outside at the moment, they have an issue they really need to address.
Yeah, I mean, I thought with the Leao thing as well, the name escapes me, but there was one huge AC Milan legend whose name just passed me by from the 70s who said Leao has the worst attitude I've ever seen from an AC Milan player. Which when you consider...
I could probably confirm that. I mean, that's his attitude. I mean, if he's willing to play, and if he's on a good night, then he scores at the Santiago Bernabeu, then he scores with a bicycle kick against Paris Saint-Germain, then, I mean, he does great goals. He's got all it takes to be a great player. But, I mean, I don't know, nowadays, a lot of players have too much going on in their life, probably, and let it be music, let it be this, let it be that, whatever, I don't know.
It's tough. It's certainly a lack of focus there. I mean, for Inter, they're focused obviously on putting more pressure on Napoli. 3 points behind them, better goal difference, but also a game in hand. And Inter, I mean, for all the problems at AC Milan this year, Inter have kind of... It's just kind of felt very kind of processional, hasn't it? They've kind of bobbed along quite nicely. No sort of major giant dramas. Okay, the Super Cup was a bit of an upset, but Inter just look very settled, and they are the only challengers to Napoli.
Yeah, 55. They're also the title owners, okay?
Of course, yeah. It's good
the champions at the moment. So they are the best side in that sense, with the best squad of all, better than Napoli. They just play twice a week. I mean, it's just different. That's a big difference. They also have big games in midweek, which the Napoli don't. So they need basically more play. But I mean, they were very dominating in Lecce. Lautaro is back at his devastating form. He scored, I think, 5 goals in 7 games in January. So he's got 200 career goals with the Racing, with Inter and the Argentinian national team. He's got 112 goals, Serie A goals with Inter. So he just overtook Icardi on second place of the foreign players, most prolific foreign players in Inter history in Serie A. So, I mean, the captain is back, and that's an issue for everyone, apart from Inter. Lautaro is the best player, in my opinion, that we have in Italy, by far. He's a massive striker. You could see it from day one that he was a massive striker. He wasn't as, let's say, far in his development as he is now, obviously. So it takes a while to develop, to learn, to everything, to get more mature, to get more secure, and everything. But you could see him from day one with the goal he scored against Atletico de Madrid in that friendly. It was like a ball coming from 50 meters, and he just picks him down and smash it below the bar. It was like, hey, what is he doing? Honestly, fantastic.
Do we say?
But, I mean, Inter are favorites. Obviously, they have to be. They are in much better form. But again, they won 6 in a row, and then fully unexpectedly, twice in a row, lost against AC Milan. I mean, okay, let it go. The first one, you would have said, okay, it was let's say the first part of the season. Inter were they were struggling a bit in terms of their defense and their solidity. So conceded twice against AC Milan in a derby. Normally a derby, the club was not favorite. Win the derby normally it happens most of the time. So you could say, okay, that's a one-off. But then I didn't expect that to happen again in the Super Cup. fully unexpected.
I'm gonna go with Inter there, but it's a fascinating game. And
I will go to.
Yeah. And in speaking of fascinating games, Rome and Napoli, two sides who came from behind at the weekend. Claudio Ranieri saying that basically he had to get his players pumped up at half time because obviously they were 1-0 down to Udinese. They went on to win that game. For Napoli, we've already sort of half mentioned in passing, they came from behind to beat Juventus as well. And as much as we've just understandably been bigging up Inter for the last few minutes, Daniela, the fact is, as you've said, for a number of weeks now, Napoli have nothing midweek. They're only looking to strengthen their side. More and more bids going in for very good players.
7 wins in a row, mate.
7 wins in a row. We can't call this as Napoli Scudetto yet. We just can't. But it's very, very hard to see how they're at least not going to take it down to the final day. They look absolutely magnificent.
Yeah. I mean, they've got Roma away, then in a couple of weeks they got Lazio away, and then they've got Inter away. Okay? So these are the 3 games that will be decisive for them, because all of the others are lower level games, so to say, and I can't see Napoli not winning them. The way they are at the moment, they will win basically all of them. So I think it's the 2nd of March they play again. No, they've got Inter at home. Sorry.
Right.
They've got Inter at home. Obviously, they played 1-1, if I'm not wrong, the first leg in Milan. So they're playing Inter at home on 2nd of March, if I'm not wrong. So that will be the day the Scudetto might be assigned.
Right.
I don't know, because obviously there are still a few games to go to the end of the season. But that is the match that will be the peak of the Serie A season. Napoli 7 wins in a row. Lukaku back to form, scoring decisive goals against Atalanta and Roma and Juventus. Roma to play weekend.
There's so many players playing well at Napoli. It's hard to pick. It's hard to pick one out.
Atalanta and Juventus. I mean, Anguissa scoring 5. Massive, best season ever from Zampa Anguissa, massive player. McTominay slotted in very well, already scored his goals, won a penalty the weekend. Is good, really good. I mean,
but that's the thing, isn't it?
Best defense in Italy, 15 goals conceded. I mean, Conte makes the difference wherever he's gone, apart from Tottenham maybe, but I mean, he's gone to Chelsea, won the league at first attempt.
Well, look, no one ever does well at Spurs. You can be the best player in the world.
They're
cursed. Spurs are absolutely cursed. That's not the manager's fault.
Juventus won, what was it, 3 league titles in a row. 4, I think it was 3 with him in the 4th season. He left, and the first season that he won unbeaten. He went unbeaten through the season.
My only issue with Conte, I think, and you'll know better than me, is that it is about the long-term thing. I think Conte often goes in and it works for a number of years, but I never feel that when he leaves, the club that he leaves is always in a great position. If that's fair, that might be about him. That might be about how strongly it's coded to his philosophy and to him as a person. But I always feel like the club takes a little while to recover once Antonio Conte leaves.
Okay, I think he squeezes every little drop of energy and of capacity there is in a club or in a player. I mean, at the beginning, it must be, everyone says that. I'm not a player myself, so I don't know, but everyone says that it's very difficult to be an Antonio Conte player at the beginning when he comes in. But everyone sort of loves him, or at least recognize his value when he leaves. So he normally stays 2 years, Conte, 2-3 years at the maximum. Because after that they also need a change. And Juventus, it was the same, players were fed up with him, basically. So, but he got 102 points in one season. He got Juventus back to winning ways after years. So he did everything that he needed to do to win, and he's doing the same at Napoli. We see Politano playing fullback. We see plenty of stuff happening. So it's a bit like Mourinho in that sense. Not always it does happen, what you said, because if we consider Inter, that's credit to Inter also, But when he left Inter with the title, Simone Inzaghi at his first attempt could have won the title straight after, but they messed up big time and let the title go to AC Milan. So basically, because they lost the game in Bologna, I mean, I don't know if this is the place to remember of that, but they lost the derby and they lost in Bologna very, let's say, stupidly with an incredible mistake by second goalkeeper Radu that was going to play that day because they were playing also midweek, blah, blah, blah. So they incredibly lost a title who was already their title, basically. So... But Inter, this is more credit to Inter and their directors for the way they act on the transfer market and the way they run the club.
It's really interesting, but ultimately the bottom line is that right now Napoli are absolutely phenomenal. They're one of the best teams in Europe, even if they're not in European competition. It's going to be a really interesting week.
Right.
It really is going to be
I want to say something. Roma has won 6 in a row at home, and Roma are in good shape. Okay, and Roma-Napoli is always a massive game in Italy because it's the derby of the South, we say. So basically, okay, somebody calls it the derby of the sun.
Right.
Because sunny weather, whatever, I find it quite weird to say derby of the sun, but I mean,
I've been to both of those places, and it exclusively rained in both Naples and in Rome when I was there for 4 days at a time.
This is a lot by you, mate.
I'm not calling it the game of the sun because I'm afraid to say I never had any in either of those places. So yeah, look,
but Roma are good. Ranieri is doing well. So
really well.
Honestly,
really well.
I mean, they won at the weekend. It was their first win away in 9 months, basically. Yeah. So this is also a sign that what he's doing is actually having effects and bearing fruits.
Well, I think you saw that at half-time at the weekend, didn't you? The fact is they weren't good enough against Udinese. He's spoken about how at half-time he gave them a kick on the backside and they win the game.
Exactly. And they won 6 in a row at home. I mean, Napoli are favorites because Napoli now are really confident. Yeah. But this is going to be, I think, a hard game for them. I don't see them just running through Rome and just... getting the 3 points easily. Yeah. They probably will get eventually, but it's not an easy game for Napoli, and Antonio Conte knows that very well. So he will have prepared very well for that game, I'm sure.
Two very old cities take each other on in Italy. Thank you so much as always, Daniela. Do make sure you take a look at all of the content on the Clubhouse TV channel, and most importantly of all, make sure at all times, folks, you are gambling responsibly.